Good morning, everyone. I'm Janice Zumo, the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs, and I can't tell you how excited I am to see all of you. This is the largest professional development event we've ever had, and we are expanding the scope and the breadth of the program. So it's great to have so many faculty, SI leaders here. And we also have an extremely large planning committee. I'm not even going to attempt to thank all of them individually, but I will collectively thank them because without their work, we would not be here today. So I just want to give you a very brief overview of what's coming because it's going to be a day where we're going to immerse ourselves in innovative peer-to-peer learning modalities. And we're going to have experts from across the college um, explain and describe and give you examples of these different modalities. And I like to think of it as, when you're in an associate or a bachelor's degree program and you're taking like a lot of courses and they're everywhere. And sometimes you're thinking like, what is this course? Why am I taking it? And then you finish all that and you go for your master's and it's so specific to what you want to do and what you want to become. And it's like a much deeper dive. So today we're going to have that deeper dive. You may think I heard that already today, but you won't be hearing it exactly the same way as we describe supplemental instruction, which is the methodology we've been using for the past 4.5 years. And then we're going to dive into peer assisted learning. And we're even going to describe how you can even use tutors. I want to take just a minute to introduce our president, Dr. Anthony Monroe. He's going to bring us not only greetings, but his take on innovative peer to peer learning.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's my pleasure to speak to you today as you participate in today's innovative peer-to-peer learning workshop. Research has shown that students learn a great deal by explaining their ideas to others and by participating in activities in which they can learn from their peers. They develop skills in organizing and planning learning activities, working collaboratively with others, giving and receiving feedback, and evaluating their own learning. Peer learning is becoming an increasingly important part of many courses, and it is being used in a variety of contexts and disciplines in many high schools and colleges. Formalized peer learning can help students learn effectively. At a time when college resources are stretched and demands upon staff are increasing, peer-to-peer learning offers students the opportunity to learn from each other. It gives them considerably more practice than traditional teaching and learning methods in taking responsibility for their own learning and, more generally, learning how to learn. It's an important addition to the repertoire of teaching and learning activities that can enhance the quality of education. Today's workshop will provide more insight into this concept, and I hope you will walk away informed and inspired. Thank you to Associate Dean of Academic Affairs, Dr. Janice Zumo, and the members of the planning team who coordinated today's workshop. I encourage everyone to continue exploring innovative practices to enhance student retention and ensure our student success at BMCC. Thank you for your time. Enjoy today's workshop and have a wonderful day.
One of the reasons we're using supplemental instruction and we want to expand the use of peer assisted learning and tutoring is that we've done a lot of assessment and evaluation of those services and how they are impacting student success at the college. And it's one of our very good high impact practices. And so what we'd like to do is expand the use of these practices across the curriculum, and most especially in our gateway courses that really hamper our students' ability to be successful. And we want to help them from the time they walk into the door. So that's why it's so great to see so many faculty here today and so many SI leaders who are going to work to support student learning across the curriculum. We've been using supplemental instruction, which involves having a supplemental instruction leader in the class for all the class sessions. So they're in there with the faculty member and the students at every visit, at every class meeting. And then they're available outside of class for 2 to 3 hours a week to meet with students, to work on whatever the students are learning, and to keep supporting their learning. The peer-assisted learning is a little bit less formal, I would say, in that the peer leaders do not go to every single class session. They will go as needed. They might start going in the beginning to get to know the students, to get to know the faculty member. But as the semester moves on, they may do more work outside of class and only come to class when the faculty member wants them to. So it really depends on your teaching style, your discipline, and the needs of the students when you're teaching. So you work that out with the SI or peer-assisted learning leader. I want you to think of these different modalities as not being that different, but being like on a continuum, and you can flexibly work with people to to use the modality that works best for you. And the tutoring piece, which we're also going to talk about today, is really going to focus on our tutors that are available in Learning Resource Center and how do we connect them to the students in your classes. So in the online environment, we really would like them to visit your classes electronically, and so the students can meet them and know that there are people who can help them. What Dean Schultz will do today is he's going to set the context for what we've learned with institutional research and how we know that these practices are successful.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Okay, I'm looking around to kind of get an idea of who's here. Okay, which departments are represented? All right. Okay, this is good. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, I am Christopher Schultz. I'm the Dean of Institutional Effectiveness and Strategic Planning. The office that I oversee is the Office of Institutional Effectiveness and Analytics. You've probably seen some of our reports or seen some of our folks or worked with Musa and Tim, who are just amazing at the work that they do. So part of what we've been doing for the past few years is working with Janice to try and really analyze the effectiveness of supplemental instruction. And what the data continues to show us, frankly, is that supplemental instruction is not supplemental instruction is not supplemental instruction, and that it really depends on the particular relationship between the SI leader and the faculty member. So I'm going to run through some data really quickly, but I'm also going to share just generally what we've seen across the college with other peer-assisted learning supports. So we're talking about peer coaching, we're talking about peer mentorship, and peer tutoring. Like we constantly see the benefits of students working with students, and not just for the students who are being supported, but for those who are doing the support. We see greater growth. Even when we do propensity match to other high performing students, we see significant differences in GPA, retention, graduation within 3 years. And honestly, much lower withdrawal rates, which, by the way, if you have a chance, take a look at our website at some of our predictive modeling. The W, especially in the first semester, is really a death blow. Only about 25% of students who get a W in that first semester return. So we're really looking carefully at withdrawal rates. This is a lengthy report. So what I did was I quickly highlighted things in yellow that I just want to focus on. And I'm going to try not to keep it up too long because I don't know about you guys, but it's annoying to see just the little faces to the right. I kind of like to have a conversation. But as you'll see here, it's been pretty consistent. This is for fall 2018 and fall 2019. When students are attending SI, about 2/3 are attending 2 or more times. And we're seeing about a fifth, between a quarter and a fifth of the students attending 5 or more times. And that's really important to note. One, it gives you a little bit of insight into the kind of relationship that probably exists within the SI section, because students are using it. And by the way, we've done focus groups with SI leaders, and what we constantly hear is that the leaders with the greatest experiences are usually the ones who had that professor previously, had a relationship with the professor, and certainly one where the professor incorporates the student not only into the classroom, but really into their their management practices as far as the classroom. So can the SI leader be in there observing which students seem uncomfortable? That's been especially important in an online setting. Also, before we went into the pandemic, we saw that in computer labs, that was critical, that the SI leaders were in there seeing when somebody was having an issue, especially with the computer science courses, because they could come right over and provide assistance. And so even if you had students who were shy or had anxiety, there was somebody watching out for them. And it was one of their peers who had similar experiences. So very impactful. So pardon me as I scroll. As I said, this is a very long report. But I'll show just real quickly here. You don't see a lot of asterisks, and you see that these numbers are kind of similar between SI sections and non-SI sections. So when we take a look at the sections as the unit of analysis, we typically don't see a tremendous amount of difference in about pass rates or retention. So it's not necessarily about a section just being identified as SI, but it really is about the students and how they take advantage of it. So what we then did was we took a look at students as the analysis. And what I want you to note here is, and I didn't put this in yellow, but when we're matching like students in SI versus SI participants and then paired classmates that are not participating in SI, you see that their GPA is much higher. You see their course grade is higher, and you see their past credit hours higher. Now, just taking a look at this like this, you could say, okay, some of this is probably student agency. Some of this is probably students who are more willing to take advantage of it. And that is probably true. But we are taking students who are matched within the same courses. So from an academic preparation perspective, these are students who are very similar. The difference is some are taking advantage of SI. So sometimes what I think we need to do is to not just get so bogged down in the statistics. We use the statistics, but what are the statistics telling us? It's telling us that this interaction is beneficial. So how can we encourage more students to participate in SI? These numbers, as you'll see, they're small because we're looking within sections, but I just wanted to point out that these actually hold pretty true over time, even with small numbers, and that we're seeing D, F, W, and I, that's D's, F's, withdrawals, and incomplete rates that are much lower in a lot of these courses. Now, what we saw early on was a bigger difference of the impact of SI in developmental courses, especially math. And so that has led to thinking about how we make sure to incorporate SI into the co-recs, because we saw that it was more impactful in the developmental. And so we know that the introductory courses, introduction to that material, SI is very helpful for those students. And when you start to get a little bit bigger, like English 101, where there were 73 students, you see a 10 percentage point or 25 overall percentage point difference, 25% point difference in passing grades. So students are more likely to pass. Now, when we take a look across different courses, this is really important to look at, and this tells you a lot. We're taking a look at matched students, almost 700 of them, paired between the SI participants and their paired classmates. Pass rates significantly higher. This is a big one, the withdrawal rate. It's a fifth, or sorry, it's a quarter. It's a quarter. Pass rates much higher. Again, withdrawal rates much lower. And when we take a look overall based on the frequency, you see that the more students attend SI, the higher the percentages go. And we actually see a significant difference for students attending 5 or more times versus their matched students. And that goes across both springs. It goes for both pass rates and for passing grades. And look at the difference between the passing grades. Less than half compared to over 3/4. Significantly higher. We see the same thing. And you may be wondering why we exclude music and art, and then we include music and art. It's because SI looks very different in those sorts of courses. And so we want to make sure that we're accounting for all sorts of different types of courses. I could keep going through all of these numbers, but I only have so much time, and I will be sharing this with the group. But I do believe there was another one that I wanted to focus in on. Yeah, so math. We've broken out math here. 3.4% withdrawal rate in a math course. That is low. Our average runs, around 10, 11%, and 12.6 when you just do the match group, not in an SI. So the withdrawal rates are significantly lower. And when you take a look at the grades, again, 37.3 compared to 71.1 with passing grades. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. What we see, especially in math, has been that this has been the case overall. But again, we have to go back to what sort of relationship exists. So is there a relationship previously with the student leader, the SI leader, and the faculty member? That's very important. We've also recently done analysis on trying to predict, what are the factors that lead to students not returning from spring to fall. And what we did for the first time was to take a look at the last 2 years. Now we know that that's not going to be predictive of necessarily before the pandemic because courses were different, but we did need to make sure that we tried to understand this so that we could help our students, return this fall to, improve retention rates and find out what supports they needed. And 3 of the top 5 predictors for students not returning were actually grades within certain courses. And it was Speech 100, English 101, and English 201. What we have seen frequently over the years is that Speech 100 is definitely a predictor of retention, whether or not students get passing grades in there. We know that English 101, we also know that about 40% of our students, now I'm talking about Black and Hispanic men, about 40-something% of those students are passing a 4-credit gateway math and English course in their first year. Those students are 2 to 3 times more likely to be retained. Our students avoid English, they avoid math. And what we've seen is that SI really helps within those. I think because you've got a student that's connected, and I think it helps to maybe overcome some of the trauma that was experienced in K-12, especially with math, especially with people of color. But English as well, the more I've looked into it, Black and Hispanic students obviously oftentimes have different writing styles, different speaking styles, and often that's not appreciated. And in fact, it's punished within the K-12 system. And so you have these students who are avoiding, but if all of a sudden they've got an SI leader who looks like them, sounds like them, has been through the experiences, they're going to be more likely to trust and see it through. And as students build those relationships with 4, 5, 6, 7 visits, we really see the impact. I can also say we see the same thing in the peer impact program through student affairs, which at this point is, I think, served over 1,200 students. And both the mentors and the mentees, we see tremendous gains in their overall GPAs, their retention. And let's be honest, this is hard to quantify, but likely a lot of this has to do with sense of belonging and with community and with a feeling that you belong. There's not a lot of research on it, but there's a theoretical base called Liminality Theory. And what it is it's about decision making. And what some studies, I've only seen about 2, but I think it's going to grow within higher ed. It shows that students, especially first generation students, typically make a decision about whether they belong in college within their first 6 to 8 weeks. This isn't whether they belong at BMCC. This is whether or not they have what it takes to make it. So front-loading support to counter the narrative that they can't be successful is critically important. And a big part of that is peer-assisted learning. And so how is that institutionalized? How do we scope it up? How do we get it into the courses that we know are most impactful, especially to our men of color? So, okay, I was right at 10 minutes. I know I said a lot, and we'll definitely have the report up. But if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them. And for those of you who haven't heard me, yes, I can speak very fast and get through a lot. So if it's a little overwhelming, feel free to take notes and just get back to me.
What was the name of the theory that you mentioned?
It's called liminality. L-I-L, I always spell it wrong. L-I-M-I-N-A-L-I-T-Y, I believe.
I was wondering, could we get a copy of the facts sheet, the statistics that you showed us in the beginning? I think that would be of interest.
Yeah, it's going to be up on our website later today.
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely. And I'll go ahead and send it to Janice after I get off so that she can make sure that everybody who's in attendance here gets it right away.
Thank you. Thank you. Any more questions for Dean Schultz?
I was just wondering if there's any qualitative data that's attached to some of the numbers, if you've actually done interviews with students and stuff to find out what are some of their perspectives on these things.
You're asking if there's numbers associated with the qualitative?
No.
No, if there's qualitative data, if you've done interviews with
Yes.
students and stuff. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, we've done 4 of them. Frankly, it's been a little difficult because all but one of those have been done online, through Zoom. The one set of 2 that I got to do with the CIS students, we were slated for 45 minutes and both went an hour and a half. The students were absolutely changed based on their experience as an SI leader. The trust that the faculty members who really trusted them had in them, it helped to, in fact, a few of them were then thinking about becoming faculty at one point because of the experience that they had. But what it was it helped to give them a feeling that they truly were exceptional. And the faculty members knew they were exceptional, but now the students were believing they were exceptional. And it's the non-academic cognitive factors that we know are most critical to student success. They're the hardest to measure. But it's like that statement. It's kind of like you know it when you see it. And we saw it when we did these focus groups. The students were just legit glowing when they were talking about their experiences, except the ones who didn't have great experiences. And so it was like night and day for the ones who the faculty member didn't want them in the class, did not ask their opinions for changes to the syllabi. Like those who are like, okay, is this working? Is this not? And the SI leader could be like, you know what, students aren't getting this, this, and this. And then the faculty member's like, okay, let's try a different resource. Do you have one? And they were like, well, this helped me. And then they were like, okay, we'll bring it into the class. And in the next class, they were like, your SI leader has provided some new resource. Like that's the kind of relationship that's really phenomenal. It changes the dynamics in the classroom. Qualitatively, we know that. Quantitatively, the numbers appear to back that up.
Quick question.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for all that. This is really interesting. So is one of the takeaways that if you're teaching first year and second year classes to focus on getting a supplemental instructor in the first year introductory classes?
I believe so. So obviously it's a sore subject for some folks, but we don't have that FYE bridge course. And there's 30 to 40 years of data showing that, especially for our students who are largely first generation, when we do our focus groups, they tell us that the New York City public high schools did not prepare them for being successful in college. They tell us this every year and I'm talking at this point, we've talked to hundreds and hundreds of our students and we keep hearing that. So they don't believe they're ready to succeed academically. They often don't have the grades because many of our students have CAAs in the low 70s, which is about a low C average. And they come here and we don't have something that immediately gives them a connection, that gives them the ability to bridge into the expectations for higher ed, right? They come from high school where everything is handed to them and now they have to take the initiative. The resources are there, but they have to take the initiative. Well, I tell this story often with my Panther partners. When I started as a first generation student and somebody told me to go to the Provost office, I asked them what the hell a Provost is. And then I bought a shirt for $5 in the bookstore because I had a little book coupon money and it said Morgan State University alumni. I didn't know what alumni was. So before I had taken a single class, I'm walking around campus with this shirt that says alumni. Guess what? Those are our students too. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know where the resources are. So if we can front load the support of their peers into the gateway courses that are the hardest for them to pass, which they avoid, and which we know predict success, that's where we should be putting our money. And I have to say that we're also looking at how we rework federal work study dollars to provide more peer-assisted learning. So this is also an area where we could potentially have more SI support down the road.
Great. Thank you. Are there any more questions? Well, I want to thank you, Dean Schultz, for your focus on the data, but also your emphasis about the relationship, the importance of that relationship between the SI leader and the faculty member. Because
Absolutely.
you want to select a student who's been in your class, who's done well, who you're comfortable with, because this is going to be a long-standing relationship, hopefully. And you really want to have that camaraderie and ability to share and trust. So I hope that you all have an SI leader. We will talk about that later if you don't. And
Can I ask Dean Schultz a quick question?
Sure, but let me just really quickly to what Janice said,
Go
two
ahead.
important points on that as well. the relationship, it absolutely is key. What we've learned is it's exponentially more important in this online environment because we don't know what their home lives are. We don't know what they have.
Yeah.
So this gives them a connection outside of whatever their world is.
Yeah.
And in focus groups, students often use the word home to describe Chambers Street, often more than the place they live. This was their home. And secondly, if you have an SI leader, they're getting paid. This is potentially one less part-time job they need. And they're with us. The more we can have them with us, the more successful they'll be. So please go ahead with the question.
Dean Schultz. So now, okay, you suppose you have the scenario that you probably have the professor, the instructor that does not know how to connect with the student, because sometimes it's not necessarily always the student, but your data is showing that it is. And we're talking about building relationships, but what do you do in the case where there's a professor that is not not from the same background, ethnicity? Because I even spoke with some of my colleagues about this, my Caucasian colleagues, and we had this conversation. What would you tell them? How would you instruct them? And I have spoken to a number of my students as well, and they have experienced the disconnect. Okay, so Dean Schultz, is there anything that you have for the professors?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't personally have them, but yes, through CETLs, frankly, the culturally responsive pedagogy, and we've had a lot of faculty who go through that. Some of the faculty that I've spoken to, and again, this is anecdotal, who've gone through that, did not understand legitimately, were not aware of how some of their practices that they've had for many years resonate differently with different students, and how certain words could be loaded for certain groups, unaware of that. And so going through something like that, I think, is really helpful. I know a couple of years ago, we had a faculty member, I wish I could remember who it was, who had a workshop called, and it was a white female faculty member. It was, I think, called Fellow White Faculty, How to Check Your Privilege at the Door. And I don't know whether she's still doing that. I mean, we can try to find out about that, but it was something that was actually done during African Heritage Month a couple of years ago. We also have an anti-racist pedagogy task force, which is doing a lot of work, and which is now connected with our race, equity, and inclusion steering committee, which, by the way, is going to be presenting programming on this very issue of how do we connect with students. Because the thing is, you have certain benefits and there are certain drawbacks based on different life experiences and based on different ethnicities. Absolutely. But a lot of those can be overcome with discipline, with your classroom management, with your pedagogical approaches and your awareness. And basically, honestly, the greatest asset any faculty member can have, any staff member can have, any human can have is empathy.
Yes.
It's the greatest asset you have. So bring that with you, and authenticity. And if you come with that, students will meet you halfway. They absolutely will, especially, but the thing is trust, getting to that point of trust. So I find that those different pedagogical approaches help faculty members to build greater trust with a more diverse student population.
Good.
Also, the trauma-informed is critically important.
Yeah.
We know 50% of our students are, food or housing insecure. We know 18 to 20% are effectively, by definition, homeless.
Yes.
And we know a lot of that is domestic violence. Just by the numbers, we know that. We don't have to study that. We know that. So, what are the students coming into the classroom with? This isn't the day of tabula rasa. They're not coming in blank slates. They're coming in with intelligence. They're coming in with assets, but they're also coming in with deficits. And can we address those deficits without having a deficit mindset? That's a really, really big thing. And maybe stop using words like probation.
Yes.
Things like that. So we got a lot we can do. I'm happy to work with any group that is seriously committed to getting these changes in place, because we lose half of our Black and Hispanic men now after a year, and half are on probation. a lot of that has to change. We need changes in the classroom. It can't just be support around the edges, although that's critically important. Our students trust you more than anybody else until they don't.
Thank you, Dean Schultz. That was an amazing, amazing presentation. I'm going to start sharing my screen. I'm going to give you a little bit brief overview. I'm going to talk really fast because we went a little bit over, but basically we started using this model in 2016 when I arrived at the college. Not that BMCC was not using supplemental instruction prior to my arrival, but we began to really focus on it and expand its use across the campus. It's not something we made up. It's founded on a model that was developed in 1973 at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. And they do very intense training and certification of SI trainers and SI leaders. Our staff have gone through that training. So we are fully versed in what that model is. It's currently used in over 800 colleges. The goal of SI is to help students master course content while developing effective learning, critical thinking, and study strategies. So it's more than reiterating content. It's showing students how to learn and helping them identify how they best learn and having them collaborate in the learning process in the out-of-class sessions. And you can also use the SI in the class to have these breakout groups and work with students in this way. So we already heard from Dean Schultz about the higher pass rates. I just want to reiterate one thing that he said. It's attending 5 or more sessions outside of the class that is that critical number that impacts the grade, the retention, and lowers the withdrawal rates of students. So you want to encourage your students. It's not just having the SI leader. It's not just knowing that there are out-of-class sessions. It's really encouraging students, however you can, to attend those out-of-class sessions, knowing now, because we've just told you how impactful they are. This is an academic enrichment program that is focusing on historically difficult courses. What does that mean? It means it's not the student that we're focusing on. It's the courses that have low pass rates and high rates of DF and withdrawals. You heard from Dean Schultz that that W grade in the first semester is a high predictor of the student leaving the college and not pursuing a degree. So we want to do everything we can to support them so they don't withdraw. So we want them to feel they belong here and that there are people like them, their peers, who are here to help them. The SI doesn't replace the in-class lectures. It's really, as I mentioned, a discussion, a review session. It's facilitated by our students who are trained SI leaders. Our PAL leaders, our tutors are all trained. We're on the road to having all our tutors certified. And Gia can discuss that when she does her presentation. But we are very focused on training. And anytime you need an update, you can just reach out to the LRC and they'll be happy to give you an update. So anyway, let me move on. Okay, so we expanded, that's fine. We don't have to talk about that. We have an SI advisory board. I think that's important to mention. It's comprised of staff and faculty at BMCC who have been using SI or have trained to be experts in SI. And we meet usually ongoing over the course of the semester to plan events like this. And I want to thank that advisory board. I also want to thank the staff of the Learning Resource Center and the faculty who have worked with us to plan and facilitate today's event. And you're going to meet all of them as you go into your breakout rooms and hear some of the presentations. We worked on a website that will highlight our supplemental instruction work, and that should be up soon. Currently, we're offered across the curriculum, so a lot of different subjects. We're trying to get more SI in English, math, and speech. Those are the gateway courses that are most challenging for our students. Not to say that the other disciplines are not challenging and that SI would not be effective there, but we know these are the problem areas, and we know if students don't pass speech, English, and math, they're not going to continue in their studies. So we've been using this supplemental instruction model for almost 5 years. And one of the things we see is one size does not fit all. even taking the original model from the University of Missouri at Kansas City, we had to tweak it a little bit because the strictness of that model did not fit how our faculty teach, how our students learn, and how our SI leaders work with students. So we did tweak the model. Now we're ready to do another tweak. And so I've given a whole slide to the BMCC Innovative Peer-to-Peer Assisted Learning. I don't want you to get too bogged down in the names of the different modalities or the differences. We're going to explain that. What I want you to know is you have options. So the traditional SI is when the SI leader attends every class session. With peer-assisted learning, the PAL leader attends class sessions as needed. So that's up to you and them. I recommend they're there in the beginning of the semester because that connection with the students will get the students to go to out-of-class sessions. It's this fear of the unknown. It's this thought that I'm going to tutoring because I'm not good enough. I'm not, I'm incapable of learning. We have to get rid of that type of thinking from students and let them know that other students struggle with this class. You are not alone. If you have a question, ask it because other people have that same question. It's giving them the power and the ability to craft those questions and ask those questions. Our tutoring, we want our tutors to be able to visit classes. So even if you don't have SI in every class, consider a tutor visit, especially if we have tutoring in that discipline. And if we don't, try to make an effort to get us a tutor in that discipline because we want to have tutoring across the curriculum. Again, we want the tutors to visit your class because then the students get to see who the tutor is and they don't feel like at a loss when they go to the LRC. And right now it's all virtual, so they don't go to the LRC. So our SI leaders hold sessions outside of class, but our PAL sessions are bigger and they're going on more and they're going on across course sections. So let's say you teach a class like Speech 100. And let's say there are, there are a lot of Speech 100 classes. And I'm a student in one of those classes. And I can't make it to my particular PAL leader session. Let's open up those sessions across courses, right? The same course, so that students have the flexibility of going to different sessions. So there might be PAL sessions in speech that happen from 9 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, varying times, because they're happening across sections. That's a discipline-based decision. We have a very effective PAL model in math, and you're going to hear about that in a little while. I'm not going to do the data. Dean Schultz did a great job, but I will reiterate one more time, it's that magic number of coming to a session 5 or more times. Here's our contact info. Thank you all for listening. If you have any quick questions right now, I will answer them. Otherwise, we're going to have a Q&A a little bit later. Okay, we're going to move on to our next session.
Good morning. My name is Greg Farrell, Director of the Learning Resource Center. We have a few presenters who are going to present, including myself. We'll first talk about supplemental instruction, then we'll talk a little bit about peer-assisted learning, and we'll also talk about our tutoring services, our collaborative tutoring services. So with that said, I will have Nandrani Algo, our tutoring manager, talk about supplemental instruction.
Greg, I'm sorry. I'm going to do supplemental instruction.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll talk about.
It's okay. Good morning, everyone. So like Greg said, my name is Gia, and I am the academic specialist in the Learning Resource Center. And I'm just going to orient you or just reiterate some things that was probably already said about supplemental instruction. So as you all should know, it's a free academic assistance program that utilizes out-of-class SI leader facilitated review sessions. And what that means is that all of these sessions are taking place directly after the class, okay? So what we saw is that's what studies showed is that the SI sessions that are more successful happen right before and or right after the class, but we can talk about that at a later time in our breakout sessions. So supplemental instructions targets traditionally difficult academic gateway courses. And as you all know, those are high rates of D or F grades and withdrawals. So all of the SI sessions are facilitated by SI leaders. All of the SI leaders are trained. And these are students. They can be students and or recent graduates who have previously done well in the course and who attends all class lectures, takes notes, and they act as a model student. SI leaders work closely with our SI coordinators. They work closely with the supervisors and of course with the faculty. So there is a network of support for faculty, for the SI leaders and the students. The role of the supplemental instructor, they are to attend all class sessions and participate in the lectures. So like we've been saying, we want the SI leaders to be actively engaged in the class, actively working with the students. Ideally, they should schedule about 3 to 4 hours of out of class sessions each week. That can total to about 2 or 3 sessions a week. And we work closely with the SI leaders to help them organize their time and plan effectively for the SI session. So they have that support there. They also prepare content for the SI sessions based on the class lecture and course content, and all of this planning sheets and material is given to the SI leader before they begin work, so they are prepared to come into your class and hit the floor running. They are to communicate on a regular basis with the course instructor, and the course instructor is aware of the SI session content. So again, that goes back to collaboration. The SI leaders can show the faculty members what's going to be happening in the out of class sessions, and the faculty leaders are very aware of what is taking place in there. So again, there's a lot of collaborative methods that are being used, and all of this information, the strategies are given to the SI leaders, so they are prepared to facilitate those out of class sessions. They are to schedule the SI sessions based on the availability of most of the students possible. We ask the SI leaders to poll the class, and based off of that poll, they are to create their out of class SI sessions. And of course, we know that, sometimes these schedules do not work. So we ask the SI leaders to revisit these schedules and also to repoll if they need to be throughout the semester, to make sure that most students are attending these out of class sessions. During these out of class sessions, the SI leader is there to help students understand course concepts and study skills. They are to help students foster connections with support services and to demonstrate successful academic strategies and habits. So there's a lot happening in the out of class SI sessions to prepare these students to become, master students, and also to decrease their dependency on SI leaders, on tutors. We want them to come to these services, but to develop strengths within themselves. And I think, Greg, goes to the next slide? Is it yourself?
That's mine.
Okay.
I will.
And
Okay.
I'm sorry, Greg, if you have
Okay.
any questions, you can just save it till the end of the presentation and we'll answer all of your questions. Thank you.
Absolutely. So what is peer-assisted learning? And as Dean Zumo mentioned earlier, peer-assisted learning is a peer-facilitated learning enhancement model, and it's designed to impact the way students learn difficult content in specific courses. PAL is also from the University of Kansas, Missouri. It was designed a little bit later after supplemental instruction, primarily because supplemental instruction did not fit the needs for all programs. So PAL recently, I believe about 15 years ago, PAL was designed also by UMKC as well. And PAL is attached to, currently at BMCC, PAL is attached to our Korean Technical Education course sections to provide students with a systematic and structured approach for processing the course material assigned by the instructor. Okay, so who are our PAL leaders and what are their roles? Our PAL leaders are current or they can be former students who have done well in the course, very similar to supplemental instruction and tutoring. And these students have undergone an extensive PAL training to plan effective sessions. I'm not going to read through all of the bullets. I'm just going to read through the ones that I think are important. Okay, PAL leaders periodically attend classes. So the difference right now, and I'll explain this a little bit later, PAL leaders periodically attend classes. They do not attend every class as a supplemental instruction leader will do, or a PAL tutor do not attend any class. So PAL leaders, they may go at the beginning of The semester may come back during midterms or in whatever way the faculty member would like to utilize a PAL leader, he or she can do so. Okay, I'm going to skip down a few bullets. I'll go to bullet number 3, which says PAL leaders work closely with professors assigned to PAL courses and report to the Learning Resource Center PAL coordinators and supervisors. We do have supervisors within the Learning Resource Center who will assist in setting up PAL visits to the classes. And I'll talk a little bit about that on my next slide. And I'll scroll down to another bullet, to bullet number 5. PAL leaders are certified by academic departments and trained by faculty, program coordinators, and supervisors to ensure students receive optimal assistance with their coursework. So all training for PAL is done by the Learning Resource Center in conjunction with academic departments. Okay, and for the sake of time, I'll move to my next slide. And this is just a breakout of the responsibilities and the commitments we ask each individual to perform within our PAL program, our PAL model. And I'll just talk a little bit about the faculty requirements that we would like faculty to assist us with. We would like faculty to cooperate with PAL supervisors and select candidates as PAL facilitators. So at times we will reach out to faculty through faculty liaisons and within the Learning Resource Center so that we can recruit PAL leaders. Okay. Also provide a copy, if possible, of the attendance roster for the course, so the PAL leader know the students who are associated with the course. And this is not a requirement, but at times it may be helpful if after an exam, letting the PAL leader know the pass or fail if students are not doing well, which students are not doing well, so the PAL leader can pay more attention to that student if need be. Okay, and also make allowance or allow to be made periodical announcements about PAL sessions, inviting all students to participate. So if the faculty member can allow the PAL leader to just at the end of class, at the beginning of class, just announce the times and availability of the PAL leader. Okay, and avoid suggesting that only those who do poorly on the exams will benefit. So we do not want to use that language. What we do not want is a negative connotation to the PAL program. All right, and F, maintain PAL as a recommended, encouraged activity rather than a requirement. Okay, and with that said, I will move on to our tutoring program within the Learning Resource Center, and Johnny Algo will talk about our tutoring program.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Today I will speak a little bit on tutoring. So what is tutoring? Tutoring is a learning assistance program designed to increase student retention through the use of collaborative learning techniques. The format that we use for tutoring consists of small groups with a maximum of 5 students for a session hour. Students who register in a supported course may attend as many tutoring sessions as they choose. Students can also register for a tutoring session. And as someone mentioned earlier, all of our tutoring is currently done online on Upswing. And if you need additional information on that, you can contact myself. So who are the tutors and what are their roles? Tutors are certified by academic departments and are trained by coordinators and supervisors to ensure students receive the best assistance with their coursework. Tutors focus on a subject or a course. Tutors adapt to students' needs communicated at the onset of the tutoring session. Schedules for tutoring are based on mutual availability of both the tutees and the tutor. Tutors work under the management of the Learning Resource Center. Well, I should say most of the tutors work under the management of the Learning Resource Center. We also have tutors in the math lab who are managed under the math department, I should say. Okay, so that's just a short, brief description of what tutoring is. And, as Greg mentioned earlier, if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box and we'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you, or you can email us directly if you like after the session is over. I will now turn it over to Ms. Hannah Spergan, who is a tutor in the LRC, and Ms. Spergan will speak a little bit about her experience as a tutor.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Spergan. I'm a tutor at the Learning Resource Center, and I've been tutoring Speech 100 in particular for about 3 years now. As Ms. Algu said, we generally work with up to 5 students in an in-person setting. Upswing, it's pretty similar. We can work with up to 5 students at a time. And generally what the students do is they will bring any sort of coursework they have that they may be confused about. They can come with questions in general regarding coursework or assignments or even vocabulary, and we will work with them to clarify any sort of issues they might have. We can go through, in my particular subject, we can practice presentations and essentially provide guidance on completing assignments or taking into account a professor's notes on an assignment already handed in and adjusting it to what the professor wants. And that essentially is more or less what happens both in an in-person setting and online, giving the student a lot of feedback, clarifying things that they may not be fully understanding, and providing guidance on completing particular assignments given. Hope that's clear.
Thank you. Okay. And what you have in front of you now is a side-by-side comparison. And Dean Zumo had a side-by-side comparison. I'm just going a little bit in depth, and I'll read some of the comparisons between supplemental instruction, tutoring, and peer-assisted learning. Okay, let me just move my squares to the side. Okay, so supplemental instruction, and as I said, I'll start on bullet or box number 2. It focuses on SI sessions on the content in a specific course. So supplemental instruction focus on a SI leader will find him or herself in a specific course. And they will attend every session of that course, all the lectures in that course. Where tutoring is focused on the subject or the course, but that individual is not in the class. That individual is in the Learning Resource Center, or currently they're on Upswing, and they're explaining course content and working with students managed by the Learning Resource Center. Peer-assisted learning focus on a specific course and other sections within that course, as Dean Zumo explained earlier. So the difference with the PAL leader, he or she is not in just one section. He or she may find themselves in multiple sections of that same course throughout the semester. What we found is that some faculty do not want the SI leader in the course every session. They may only want to bring the SI leader on for a few sessions. So we incorporated the new PAL model so that we can accommodate faculty who only want individual in the course during specific times of the semester or as needed. Okay. I'll skip down to a few other bullets. And I mentioned this, attends every course lecture with students. Oops, I think I just went back. All right, there we go. Some other things I want to point out is I'm going to scroll down just a little bit, and this is the last thing. The SI leaders set specific session times that are available to students on a voluntary basis. Whereas in tutoring, students can schedule appointments or drop in to meet with tutors. Okay, so it's sort of, tutoring is sort of a sit and wait. The tutors sit and wait for the students to voluntarily come in. And PAL, what PAL does is PAL leaders attend a few scheduled class visits, conduct class workshops in collaboration with instructors. And I'll give you an example of this. We work very closely with the CIS department and the business department this past semester, where PAL leaders work with faculty and design workshops within the subject area. Finals workshops, we designed workshops to assist students in taking a Microsoft Excel exam, business and accounting students. And these PAL leaders assisted in the facilitation of those workshops. And they worked in conjunction with the Learning Resource Center. So that's just an example of the difference in supplemental instruction, tutoring, and peer-assisted learning. Okay, and I believe that's everything we have. Learning Resource Center on campus. We're in room S510. Currently, we're on upswing. Okay, and these are the tentative hours during this semester. And that's the end of our presentation.
So our next presentation is Professor Hamilton and Josh.
Okay, so I'm going to discuss about your SI leader. Now, I've had SI leaders since the beginning, and I even had, before we had PAL, we did have something in peer-assisted learning about 2 years before SI leaders, and I've also had a PAL leader too, which was one of my present SI leaders, which is Byron. But your SI leader is there to help you and your students succeed. For example, some of the things you can do is you can, when you're assigning problems in the class, you should encourage your SI leader to walk around and help the students stay on task. Because as a math professor, I find that students are more interested in what's going on their cell phones than they are interested in doing math problems in class. So it's always nice to have the SI leader walk around and kind of help out and be, gentle in keeping students on task. Now, if you use groups, it's always good to encourage your SI leader to visit the groups as they work on problems. Because sometimes what happens in group learning, one student does everything and the others just copy. So the SI leader would encourage other students to participate in the group. With your SI leader, you should inquire about student performance both in and out of the classroom, because while you're lecturing, I always like to have my SI leader walk around and help students stay on task and everything. And I like to know how the students are doing both in and out of the classroom. And you should ask your SI leader which students are struggling during the class and encourage those students to attend SI sessions. And you should also ask your SI leader who is going for extra help. In my case, I like to give extra credit for students who do seek out extra help. And I give them a point or so on their quizzes. And if you can, visit your SI leaders out of class sessions. The students actually really like this because they see that you're really interested in them. I mean, sometimes I'll just pop in on an SI session and the students will be happy to see me and will say hi and everything like that. So the students get that feeling that you're really involved, if you can do that. Not everybody has the time to do that sort of thing. Now, the next thing, I have to move these things around, sorry. My computer's so tiny. Okay, one of the most difficult things is getting your students to attend out-of-class SI sessions. And I find, yes, this is true. And you should encourage your students to go to these SI sessions. And you announce the SI leader his or her out-of-class schedule in class. So that's what I do. I tell them, or I let them work it out with the SI leader. Like I'll put time aside in the class and they can work out what times work best for them. And then have your SI leader, if you have a face-to-face class, I always had my SI leader, the first thing I would do, or he or she would do, would write on the side of the board what their hours are and keep it up there as long as possible so the students could see it and always know whenever they get the chance to jot down when the SI sessions are. And as I mentioned, I like to give extra credit for students who are attending SI sessions. And not everybody can do this, but I do this. And then now that we have things that are online, I like to also add in that since I've done asynchronous courses and SI asynchronous courses, you want to make sure that your SI leader is a part of the Blackboard roster as a TA, even though technically he or she isn't a TA, the Blackboard setting you want to use since they do not have SI leader settings. And this is so that your SI leader can post announcements about SI Zoom sessions, etc. If teaching synchronously, try to hold the SI Zoom session before or after your Zoom session, because students tend to like to run away and then they never return. So it's always a good idea to have them, to have it before or after your Zoom session or your synchronous Zoom session. So if teaching asynchronously, try to be consistent with SI Zoom sessions. I like to have my SI leader hold Zoom sessions before our weekly online quizzes or before our homework is due. So that gives, the students a chance to ask their questions, because then they're all ready either for the quizzes or to hand in their homeworks. And then email and post in the Blackboard announcements when the SI sessions are, and have SI leaders give his or her Zoom link. So I also, and then I email them also, and I post it on Blackboard. The day the SI sessions are, I do email the students just to remind them, yes, there's an SI session today at 2 p.m., et cetera, et cetera. Again, I've popped in, as my SI leaders know, I pop in on the SI Zoom sessions like I would pop in on a face-to-face class session to show the students that you care about their progress and success. And again, they really appreciate it. They go, oh, hi, Professor Hamilton, when I popped in on their SI sessions, even their Zoom SI sessions. And as I mentioned, I give extra credit for their Zoom sessions, and I add an extra point for each half an hour they attend an SI session. Now, my SI leader that I brought here today, I have a few of them. Wait, sorry. It's so much moving around. Is Josh Grilaska, and he's one of my SI leaders. And Josh has been one of my SI leaders since fall semester 2016, which is about when SI really got started in BMCC. And now he will talk about his experiences as an SI leader. So take it away, Josh.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton. So I'm Joshua, and I've been Dr. Hamilton's Math SI leader, as said, since 2016. I'm currently pursuing an Applied Math Master's at Hunter College. And as far as SI is concerned, I've conducted SI sessions in class with Dr. Hamilton, as well as synchronously and asynchronously with Professor Conte. Soon, I'm looking forward to conducting SI sessions using the hybrid approach with Dr. Hamilton sometime in the future. I've worked with SI for the Math Education 214.5 course, as well as the Pre-Calculus 206.5 course. For the in-class sessions, there's obviously no lag or disconnects that experience with the online approach. For the synchronous sessions, I can quickly clarify any issues that students experience as they're currently working on problems for the first time. And lastly, for asynchronous sessions, students have more time to prepare for questions that's been stumping them for quite some time. And that's my experience with SI. And in order to motivate students in the future, I'm currently encouraging students in continuing their education by hearing out their concern, and when applicable, referring them to the appropriate department, as per an email I received quite some time ago. So these short sessions will be conducted during the SI sessions, as well as during upswing tutoring sessions. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much, Josh.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So the next is a presentation from Professor Key about PAL-assisted learning. Thanks so much, Professor Key.
First of all, I want to show you our PAL tutoring right now is still running in the summer right now, and you can see the website. And we are running from, today is Tuesday, so we're running from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. So students can easily go to our webpage and check the time and go to the room section right here. You just have to click, and they're gonna find a tutor, our PAL leader, in the tutoring section. So we also did this the same way last semester. I want to show you the website. All right, so here's the spring 2021 we have the same way set up the tutoring sections, including the Power tutoring tutors we have professors volunteer for tutoring for the whole semester. You can see my name right here and Dr. Famington's right here, right? So we provided hours for students. They can register, they can email us for scheduling the tutoring, then tell us what's the problem they have or topic they want to go over. That's the same way they can do to contact the power leaders and find out what they want to know so they can schedule with the power leader. Okay, so we also provide the student the videos we have so students know what is our teaching style so they can easily find the one they like. Okay, so now I'm going to give you details about how power running in our math classes and BMCC. So everybody already know a lot about the PAL, the peer assisted learning. I want to tell that is not just about teach students how to do the math problems. The PAL also helps students to understand how to adjust quickly to college life. Right? When you come to college, you may have trouble since math is a very tough course for a lot of students at BMCC, right? So the PAL should help the student understand how can they quickly learning how to pass the courses. So this is about helping the student to develop their independent learning and study skills and raise student confidence because student dropping rate is very high when they maybe fail the first exam. So the PAL leader is very important to help the students prepare the exams so they can easily feel that they can handle the whole semester. So how we operate our PAL and BMC right now is we are offering 7 days a week tutoring, right? So you can see that we sometimes offer 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., right? It varies between days or the semesters. And our PAL tutoring could be a small group because the student may schedule with the PAL and go to the Zoom tutoring section. Before we done is we did in a math lab. So the student schedule with a PAL and go to math lab to get help, right? This is going to be a small group, but we could do a large group because a professor could have a PAL in their classes. And for review section, we can have a lot of students go to the review section from the PAL leader. And there's a very special things we provide for our program right here is our PAL leader also learning how to use our BMCC math OER. OER is Open Education Resources. I'm going to show you how we work on this for our math department. Here I give you details about the difference between SI and a PAL and how you get a PAL or how this whole program is working, right? So first of all, a lot of professors like Dr. Famington, they like to have a SI leader in the class, but a lot of professors also, they don't want a SI leader in the class. So for people who don't want SI leader in class, we suggest if they want a PAL leader, right? So if they do have a SI leader in the class, but there's a problem about if we have an exam, so what is the SI leader gonna do? Because the SI leader will go to the class. So the idea we have is, if this time the professor don't need a SI leader, so they can go to our tutoring center, which I just show you either in the math lab or LSC or anywhere in the BMCC place, or right now we are running on the website. So the SI leader will go to the website tutoring the students. The student will coming from other classes, right? Not the SI classes original he has or she has. If there's a professor don't want SI leader in the class, and sometimes they want an SI leader outside the class, we still have some kind of issues that scheduling because SI leader have a certain schedule that to meet the students. So what we done is whenever there's no student coming, right? There's no student schedule, you're outside of the tutoring, then we also put the SI leader into the our tutoring center. Right. So let's say if a professor wants a PAL tutor, so the PAL tutor will work with you and help you to set up the tutoring sections, do the way you like it, right? So for individual student, they couldn't meet you in a certain time, and we have a whole tutoring center available 7 days a week. So you can find a different tutor in our Zoom tutoring sessions. So what we have so far is for the PAL leader, you are also wants to help the student to find various supplemental materials. This is what we have done. So Dean Zumo have been helping us to create a lot of supplemental materials for students for free, right? So this is all the website we have done so far. We did for immersion, we did statistics, pre-calculus, intermediate algebra, and nursing math. I want to just quickly show you the website and what we have so you understand how the PAL leader can help the students, right? So this is our statistics website. We show the student everything, including lecture notes, homework assignments, videos. So far we have more than 2,000 videos made by our volunteers, including professors, PAL leaders, tutors, students, and we have Math 206.5 right here, right? We made the practice final exams, videos, and free tutoring. That's going to be our PAL tutoring right here. We also did, this is nursing math. We gave a student examples, and we also created we code some of the problems student can practice. This is very good resources for student. After the section finished by the PAL leader, they can tell the student go to the website to do some practice. Student can understand better about the materials. All right, this is our immersion we done. And now we are working on the new courses we're gonna offering. This is Math 156. We provide a student free ebook. This is OER book. We have professor notes. We have the professor videos. I think that's pretty much what I show you today. Thank you.
Wow, Professor Key, that is, if I were a student and needed to start with math, I would be so happy to have all of those resources available at, any time of the day or night that I was available. So thank you so much. We are going to go into breakout rooms in about 3 minutes. So we pretty much only have about 3 minutes for questions. Do we have any questions? Or you can put them in the chat. You can email us. So questions?
Quick question. I know the college wants to transition back to campus next semester for at least 60%, and then going forward to the spring at least 75%. What's the presence of these SI leaders or power tutor services in terms of on-campus access? If let's say I teach in-person classes, would it be support, or if I want to work with SI leaders for in-person classes?
Yes, so long as the SI leader is vaccinated, and I can defer that question also to Dean Zumo. We think we're still working on reimagining, reopening.
So as the college reimagines repopulating the campus, we're repopulating with the SI leaders and the tutors. So we're working on that plan right now. And as that expands, like with more people on campus, there'll be more tutors, more SI leaders, more PAL leaders on the campus. So we have the same challenges everybody does in thinking about returning to campus, which is that balance between having to be in some cases online and having to be in some cases in person. So none of us are gonna have a fully one way or the other schedule. So it's getting, people that are available to be on campus and providing them with access to computers to serve students who may not be on campus. So we have to think really big on this so we can serve as many people as possible. I don't know if Greg wants to add anything.
We have been meeting, Vincent, almost weekly about the reopening of the Learning Resource Center, social distancing, and a few things. So we are looking to begin planning, heading back to campus. I will begin probably later this month, just scoping things out, but we will have to speak to Jorge and a few others. Last week, Dean Zumo, myself, the library e-learning department, we did meet and discuss how will we collaborate or tutor in library services, e-learning services to let students and staff back into room S510 and also the math lab. So discussions are coming, and we are having discussions right now.
Great. There's quite a few hands raised. Maybe we could just take 2 more questions and the rest could be in the chat. Valerie Small?
Hi, thank you for this wonderful workshop. What I want to know is, are the videos and everything that you provide, is it actually available 24 hours for the students?
Are you talking about the math department?
Yes, in the math department, yes.
I can answer that. Yes, they are available. The OER materials are available to students at all times because they're online, and some of the videos are connected through YouTube. Some of them are embedded right into the webpage.
Okay, thank you.
Great, great. Maureen?
Hi, I just had a quick question. I want to clarify from Greg. Greg, from your slide, it looked like peer-assisted learning is only available for CTE courses. Is that correct?
We are searching for funding for non-CTE courses, and I did not explain that in depth. Thanks for bringing that out, Maureen. We do have a Perkins grant that supports peer assisted learning, and the Perkins grant, because it supported supplemental instruction in the past, this is a new 5-year grant, and this time around it's supporting peer assisted learning. So most of the funding for peer assisted learning is through the Perkins new grant, which is strengthening career and technical education for the 21st century. That's the name of the Perkins 5 grant, and it supports the PAL model. However, there may be funding for non-CTE majors. We just haven't secured it yet.
For the music courses, I believe that PAL would be a great model. We can discuss how we would use that, but I envision it as being maybe more flexible than the SI model you're currently using, so that we can have the tutors seeing students across the sections when the content is very similar, right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. We can use that in music with the same funding stream we have now.
Great. Ilana?
Hi, that just answered one of my questions, but another one is an overview thing. Is there a way to get academic advisors to help students schedule, seeing the importance of having SI sessions before and after classes? Is there a way to encourage students to keep those times free if possible? Because I find that some students just have to rush away or come in late because they're coming from something else, even online. And I would really, really love to have at least some of those times used for the SI sessions and be more easily available to students because of their scheduling done like way in advance.
Right. So one way we could do that is to put the SI sessions on the student schedule, except we can't do that. So, I mean, that may sound crazy. The suggestion is great. We've explored it with the registrar, but it has something to do with credit hours and charges, and they couldn't do it. So we would love to do that. The other thing about the advisors doing this is that they don't, I mean, it's not just other classes that compete, it's the students' personal lives, jobs.
Yeah.
That's why the SI leader is supposed to poll the class and find out what's the best time. And that's why we're pushing the peer assisted learning model, which again, it allows the students to go to these sessions across course sections. What is your discipline?
Speech.
Okay. Yeah, I think in speech, it would definitely work to have PAL leaders and to have these open sessions.
Yeah.
Then you can have your leaders serving all the speech classes.
Right.
The content is, very, it's the same. So I it should work out fine.
My SIs work with students one-on-one, using social media. So they're able to meet students for 10 minutes here on their breaks from work, after class, when they're on the subway, whenever. So we make every effort to meet the students where they are, in addition to the meetings that Dean Zumo has outlined.
Oh, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the model that the math department has, where there are so many videos of the sessions and so many resources, might be something that could work for speech too, creating videos and resources that students could access at any time that they want. So thank you so much for your questions and attention. And now we're going to move into breakout rooms, which are supposed to be from 11:30 to 12:10. And then at 12:10, we're going to get back together and share a few highlights of each breakout session.
So can we have somebody report back from the math group?
First, we have a few professors share the experience of using SI program, and they also discuss how they like it, and special how to look for SI leader. It's very important that the best way to find a SI leader is a tutor who took a student who took your course before, so they can understand your teaching style, right? So we also discuss about the difference between SI, power leader, and the TA, because TA is not really a SI leader or power leader. So a lot of instructors, they love to have SI if they had it before, and some of the professor wants to try to have a power leader because they never done that before. And so it really depends on the individual professors, what you like, because we have a flexibilities to provide you to help the students. So for encourage the student, we suggest that each of us can show the successful stories about yourself, and also the SI or power leader can show what they have done at BMCC because they took your course or they graduate from BMCC, so they understand the school very well, right? So they can give a student a hint about how to successful and how to graduate and have a successful story in the future. And we also try to figure out the best way, which is the last of what we're discussing. We didn't, how can we enforce the student to go to SI and PAL? And it's a way we can put in Blackboard or somewhere at the BMC website. That's what the last we were discussing, right? That's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Key, all right, for summarizing what we did in our breakout room.
How about our teacher ed group?
We sort of stopped mid-sentence, so my apologies. I saw the breakout room about to end sign came, and then it flew past me before I had anything to say. That's how we needed more time, but that's okay. One of the first things that we all agreed to was that the presentation by Chris Schultz was absolutely amazing. The power of supplemental instruction, any peer model, that data, the quantitative and the information from his focus groups, that is really powerful. So we were all renewed with the sense of how much we need to keep doing this. Some of the things that our supplemental instruction leaders noted was that they have constant contact with the students. They're available. One uses Google Forms to send out when are people available, and then the students can sign up on the Google Forms. And then if they don't make it, she reaches back out to them. So this is a really great strategy of one of our our supplemental instruction leaders. Another supplemental instruction leader noted that many of the students have a fear of writing. And so they're having a hard time getting through, especially the gateway course in education, because you have to write a lot. So she has really done a lot of great modeling to show them how they can write, to support them. And she said then their writing just takes off. So understanding where the struggle is and then meeting that need is one of the most phenomenal things that our supplemental instruction leaders do, along with being good listeners, being empathetic, being welcoming, and understanding as supplemental instruction leaders, tutors, they don't need to know everything. What they need to know is that they need to be welcoming and supporting. And if they have a question, they can reach out to us as professors. They can, we might have to look it up too. But that once they gave themselves permission to be flexible and to be kind to themselves also, that their work is really powerful. Connect to success was something that the professors noted that is very helpful, that sending out the notices to the students through Connect to Success, and then the students reconnecting with the professors, and the professors supporting them and redirecting them back to the tutors, the peer leaders, was also very helpful. That sometimes it has to be one-on-one, that for professors, for supplemental instruction leaders, for tutors, that sometimes that's what the student needs at a given point in time, or that's how the student's schedule works. And the really great thing is helping, supporting, leading the students to become independent thinkers. So that somebody else had mentioned this earlier, that yes, we're there, we provide a scaffold, but that scaffold is to understand, to support students as they're growing to become independent thinkers and independent learners. And if I missed anything, my group, please put it in the chat maybe. Thanks.
Great, great. I just want to add one thing. For the students struggling with writing, faculty can invite the Writing Center to come into the class to introduce the services, and students can go to the Writing Center. So it can be a collaborative between the SI, the faculty, the student, and the Writing Center. So don't forget that service. Okay, our next group, business. I know we had a lot of people from business.
We did, Janice. We had, I think, over maybe 19 people in the breakout room. It was an excellent session. We actually have a great testimonial from Professor Schwartz, who I had never met before, who had a tremendous positive experience using peer-assisted learning. And I know I learned a lot just by listening to her success story. I think you should use her as a spokesperson. We did talk a lot about, the differences between SI and PAL and how we can appropriately determine what would be best for us. I also learned that we have a professor who's kind of the mediator between the Learning Center and us as we begin to identify students that are interested in, which was new information to me. And we talked about how we could streamline that nomination process. There were a couple questions that I don't think we really could answer, which was, are there some best practices using, kind of peer-assisted learning when it comes to asynchronous courses? There was also a question about FERPA and the videotaping of tutoring sessions and then posting them online. Gregory had told us that anything that's videotaped, anyone who's in the videotape needs to give permission to use it. There was one other question that I didn't get to ask, and that has to do with the dogs are going crazy. You can move on to another department.
Sean Jackson has a question. So Sean, go ahead and speak.
Okay.
Peter deals with the dog.
Okay. Hello, everyone. The question that I have, I think it came up. It's in reference to Connect to Success. I used it, and I find it's wonderful. The question that came up was, can a PAL or SI or tutor have access to some of the commentary that we send out to help identify those students that may be in need. This way they don't fall through the gap.
So we just had a meeting with SI. Yes, it was Nandrani and Gia and John Yui, who's our network, like he takes care of Connect to Success. So he's looking into how we can identify courses as having SI in Connect to Success so students can see that. It's going to be after the fact, not prior to registering, but at least it would be there. And how do we get the SI leaders in there and in Blackboard? So, you know, we're working on that. And once they're in there, they'll be able to see everything.
Okay, that's good.
So it's a process. I don't think it'll happen like immediately. And the difficulty is that they are students. So sometimes it's difficult to get a student onto a platform that is for, that first of all has some information about other students. And also, you know, so I'm not sure that they would actually have access to that, but they would be in there. And the students, the faculty could refer the student to the SI leader and the SI leader would be right there.
Thank you. That's what I was looking, the answer I was looking for.
Peter, before you start, do you want to answer Professor Jackson?
Hi, Professor Jackson, and also a lot of your referrals. So I just want to say that the academic coaches are now looking at all of the tutoring referrals that come into Connect to Success. So even if right now they won't be able to like be referred or the SI leaders see what the concerns are or the flags are, someone in the Learning Resource Center will address those flags for your students. So there is a support system there.
Okay, Gia, one other question. Over the spring semester, I had someone, 2 agencies for foster care reach out to me because they had students that were going through issues being either displaced or transferred or moved. Do we have, who would be the best go-to person for our faculty to connect with the foster care system so that they know the resources that are available? Because I had to go back and I gave her a list of support services that we have.
The only department that I know on campus is, what is it, the Learning Advocacy Center. I think that's what it's called now, formerly Single Stop.
Advocacy Resource Center, ARC. That's their new name.
Yeah, formerly Single Stop. That I know they have a lot of initiatives with the foster care system, and they would probably be the best people to who you should speak to.
Okay, Peter.
Actually, it was a Connect to Success question that Professor Jackson asked in terms of do the peer assisted learners have access to it. But I can understand the complications of that. One final question is a lot of our students have to take a CIS 100, which is a prerequisite to taking the mandated CIS 200 course. And CIS 100 is not part of their, it's not a carryover, it's an extra 3 credits. Can PAL leaders can they coordinate kind of a study group to pass the waiver exam for CIS 100?
I would say that should come from Don, the chairperson of the CIS department, in collaboration. And I have worked with Don this past semester to design CSC workshops for students who are taking the CSC finals, CSC 110 and 210. So for this 200 level, there are a number of resources out there for students who are looking to test out of 100 and go straight to 200. But I would say to design something like that, speak directly with the department, with the chair of the department, and I will work with Don, with Professor Way, to design to have PAL leaders help students who are looking to test out of it. And so I would say that if students are looking to test out, we can work on that, design workshops.
Can we hear from the English department now?
Primarily with the English department, we spoke a lot about our experiences with SI, both as professors, and we had an SI in our group that was able to relate some of her experiences. And those experiences were primarily positive, but we also discussed what might happen when there are differences in teaching approach between the SI and a professor, what that might look like or how that might affect the course. We talked about things to consider when setting up your SI, and some really interesting directives we got from Professor Record. I want to recap if I can find it. So in terms of setting up your SI, like we talked about your relationship to the SI. We talked about boundaries, communication style, and how those things might affect the way you want to set up your program and how you would use an SI in your course. And relating also to using SI, we talked about a couple of interesting ways that an SI could be of use. And so one of them we talked about was when particularly for asynchronous courses, it helps to have someone who can help the students go through the kind of rigors of the course, right? To talk about how do you access a assignment in Blackboard, completing an assignment, submitting the assignment, having someone man the discussion boards and tutor students in that way. Someone offered a really interesting suggestion, which was helping students to learn, which was actually talking about past successful essays, was something that we do a lot in the English department, which is, you know, when we're teaching course concepts, a lot of times we'll give students old successful essays as an example. So I think it was, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but it was Professor Fenn who talked about actually having a student, and maybe even in a recording, talk about how they actually completed their essay. What were they doing when they wrote their essay? And then presenting that to other students in the course. And what am I forgetting? I'm sure I'm forgetting stuff. Anybody want to jump in?
I think you're doing a great job. Yeah, I know we also talked about directions and how to navigate through written directions, because a lot of times when we provide step-by-step directions for our students, they're still very confused. And then we get emails that say, I don't know how to do this assignment, even though we've offered step-by-step instructions. And oftentimes it takes several emails back and forth or office hours to finally hash out how to navigate that specific assignment. So we talked about perhaps having the SIs, having groups to go over those instructions and how to read instructions, because oftentimes when you sit with the student and have the student read the instructions back to you, they all of a sudden understand through the reading out loud process what was expected of them. So it just sometimes takes someone to just say, hey, let's read those instructions together and we can get through this. And so that's what we also talked about, I believe.
And one last thing to add is the idea of, well, two last things. One is navigating the course, which I think you were kind of touching on, help students to navigate the course in the beginning of the semester, I think would help with retention rates. And the last thing is the difference between SI program and PAL program. As a department, what we could use it for. The PAL program, we could use to help set up lessons on skill set for the whole entire department. And it would help us to get on the same page and like break down the walls between us and the tutoring center so that we were communicating clearly and working together. Whereas the SI seems to be something that the teacher can work with an individual person to understand a course and those course goals. And even though it's not as clear cut as that, I think that as a department, we want to look at how we could best get the support services to the student and streamline it. So that was a topic that came up for us.
A couple of other challenges we talked about was Professor Camilleri brought up the idea that so a lot of times asynchronous classes haven't been chosen by students. So again, it re-stresses that point of having someone to help walk students through these courses, understand what it means to take an asynchronous course, and also that there may be some confusion about like the history of SI in a school and what is the exact process both for recommending and having and choosing your SI? So Professor really helped us to clear that up.
We need to move on to the next group, which is speech and media arts.
Vincent Suan Chen, I'm the chair of speech communication and theater art. Actually, I raised my hand just to identify I'm from speech rather than volunteering myself for this report back, but I would do it anyway. And I'm sure Claudia will jump in if I miss anything. For the speech group, we have quite a few of us there, so that's great. And I think we all recognize the importance and also how beneficial this can be for, especially for speech. Whether or not it's going to be the SI model or the PAL model, because we do have certain periods during our classes that might be the most challenging times for our students. So that may be how the PIL can work rather than having them the entire semester. But I think the discussion very much revolved around the concept of what do they do and what will be things they do and the thing they don't do as SI leaders. So we had a discussion about, when you select or identify SI leaders, rather than thinking about this as purely academic excellence, you might want to think about students who not only they excel in your class or former classes, but also they actually have the propensity to help students to learn better. So I think that that's a very interesting way to think about who we should utilize to help us with our classes. Hopefully will be students who know how to help other students and also excel in our class. And we also similarly talking about the idea of for SI leaders, they are not there just for the academic side of it. There are other territories that they might help our students in terms of time management, in terms of learning how to learn, learning how to find resources to advocate for themselves. And then the flip side of that is what will be the boundaries, the things that they shouldn't be doing, when or not that they are not TAs. They might show modelings, but they definitely will not take on the position as an instructor to teach a lesson or to reteach the lesson that you have taught. The territory of course, counseling office and all those basic needs issues, these SR leaders might be just serving as the help them find those resources and utilize those resources rather than, because they're not trained to be a psychiatrist or to be to solve those basic need issues that other students are dealing with. So those are the discussions that we had. I do think that most of us are very eager to get this going and a lot of questions. So I think it would be very helpful for us to receive some type of very easy to read and follow and understand literature so that we can forward it to the students we think might be suitable for this particular position, so they can then decide whether or not they can do it in terms of schedule wise, in terms of obligation wise, in terms of payment wise, and in terms of the pays and hours. So I think that will be very helpful for us to know the entire process logistics, that how to make this happen. Now we want to do this, what's next for us? So the contact person for sending students, for orientation, to be assigned to us, how they will be paid and how many hours they will be paid. So those are all the logistics things that I think will be very helpful if we have something very clear that we can not only understand ourselves, but also send it to the students that we think that can be very helpful for our students in our classes. So am I missing anything, Claudia?
No, that was excellent. Thank you, Vincent. I also wanted to remind everybody that we had music.
The West for Music and Art just added that the value of a long-standing relationship with your SI. So the advantages of having the same SI for several semesters. Also to answer the challenge of SI attendance. dropping into asynchronous courses as a faculty member is really valuable, especially because there's so many students who are office hours hesitant. And also just exploring the PAL option and how we might transition some of our SI energy into maybe PAL leaders. So that was it from our group.
So is there an SI group?
We had a chemistry faculty and LRC folks and have SI. So we had a very good discussion about it. I personally share my experience with SI. I've been using since we started at BMCC, and having the same SI kind of working with the faculty several semester, I think is a good idea because the student knows the students and the student knows how they operate. And we've also talked about like how to assign a SI or PAL for our chemistry faculty for his introductory class, and we talked about how to integrate that. So I guess maybe questions for you probably is that if a faculty wants to get a PAL or SI, what's the process? Are you going to have a sign-up process from the department chair and then they kind of pass it along to the faculty? Or what is the process of starting the whole thing? And I personally think that whatever a faculty need SI or PAL, they need to be identified before the semester begins. So when the semester starts, they're right in the first day of the class and helping them out. We also talked about the tutoring centers, how we can get the students more involved. The tutoring center, one of the challenges that we do discuss with our students about going to the tutoring, but students don't go. What are the incentives to go there? So, a person from tutoring center can come and speak, but still, the value of going to tutoring center is important. I think they're underutilized sometime. I think that's my opinion in general. But yeah, I think we need to find a way to kind of get our students to go to tutoring center. Even you have SI and PAL, they're not there all the time. So maybe there's a model we can go from SI to PAL to tutoring, something like that. So you start in the classroom as an SI, and then more information could be done for a PAL because they're different time, and then tutor can have. So this way we are kind of covering the time because right. So maybe we can have a model like that maybe for each department we can implement. I think that'll be great because right now SI, PAL, tutor, they're like all different independent components, but they basically have to work together to scale it to the next level.
And the skills you get at an SI are transferable.
Right.
Once you're trained as an SI, you can be a PAL leader.
Exactly.
Be a tutor. So
exactly.
The tutors have to kind of get up to speed because
right.
they're familiar with the other models. So the reverse works really well. And
right.
I think, as I tell people, the PAL leaders should be in the class at the start of the semester to build that relationship with the faculty and the students that the supplemental instruction leaders use. And I think it's good to make an SI leader a PAL leader. So they know your teaching style. If you're shifting models, it would be great. So this is great work. You guys did an amazing job. I wrote down a lot of what you said. As far as the requesting of the PAL leaders, I believe you just reach out to Nandrani the same way we've always done it, and we'll follow up.
We're looking to develop a form so that for PAL to make things easier.
All right.
Okay.
Good. That sounds great. So we'll make it easier. Excellent. Excellent. So I would like to introduce our Provost, Senior Vice President, Erwin Wong, who's going to come in and give us amazing words of wisdom. No pressure.
Thank you, Janice. First of all, I want to thank Dean Zumo for the phenomenal work she's been doing in carrying out these activities and providing the support services that our students benefit from. And I also want to thank all of you for your participation, because obviously without you, our students would not be successful. So, kudos to all of you for the hard work that you've been doing. And especially because this past year has been quite a challenge for all of us. We've experienced, probably personally, a lot of challenges, perhaps loss, unfortunately. But what makes BMCC special, both for the students, the faculty, and the staff, is that we're resilient. We're allowed to suffer, but we bounce back and we do what's always best for our students as well as ourselves. So keeping that in mind, I want to basically laud you for all the hard work you've been doing the past year, and certainly for this process in terms of looking at SI and peer tutoring, the PALS process, all of the supplemental assistance we're providing to students, because our strategic plan is extremely important, even more so now than ever because of the times. It's very simple that we want students to succeed, but how we do that isn't always that simple. And we've learned that dealing with remote instruction, remote support services provides its own challenges, and adjusting supplemental instruction and peer-to-peer advisement and things of that sort is difficult because it's not always easy to reach the students or to really touch them the way we want to. So, I'm sure you've come up with a lot of fantastic and phenomenal ideas, and hopefully they'll carry over into the next year as things will get better. I'm confident that the dawn is on the horizon, and we will improve and benefit the students even more. I'll share one brief story with you that I often tell at groups, but it's always worth saying. That there was this individual who was looking to find out what it meant to be in heaven, what was basically very beneficial and productive. And he went and searched to find out what exactly that was. And he came to one area and he saw a group of people on a plateau. They had a dais and they had a phenomenal spread of food, drink, things of that sort that was the envy of all the people in terms of sating hunger. However, when he looked closely, all those people were crying. They were suffering. And the reason for that, when he looked closely, was because every person there, despite being presented with all this food and drink, their arms were locked at their elbows. And so as a consequence, they could pick up the food or the drink, but they couldn't bring it to their mouth to drink or eat. So they were tempted and they were suffering. And so this was actually hell on earth. The person went further and went to another area. And he discovered another plateau. He saw a similar dais and he saw another spread of food and drink that was the envy of all. And he saw another group of people. And these people also had their arms locked at their elbows. However, these people were laughing, cajoling each other. They were celebrating. And the reason for that was because he saw very carefully that when they picked up the food to eat or the glasses to drink, what they would do is they would share it with the other person. They would offer it to them to drink and eat. And what he discovered then was that heaven on earth is collaboration. You are most successful when you work together. And part of the success, and I heard a bit of it when Azar was talking, part of the success and the creation of heaven on earth for BMCC is that we collaborate, that we work together. So we see that SI, peer-to-peer PAL, they're not silos, but we're working together in unison to make sure that the students will experience heaven on earth. So again, I thank you for your efforts, and I'm looking forward to some heavenly experiences in the future. All right, congratulations and take care.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you and great to have you with us. And we're going to wrap up in a few minutes. Everyone here who participated will be getting a certificate of participation. So we'll be making those up and getting them out to you. And thank you again. I can't thank you enough. And I want to thank the people who mentioned Connect to Success. And before we go, Susan is going to introduce a bit about our brand new website. So Susan, if you don't mind, can you do that?
Yeah, for sure. So Dean Zumo, you've been my thought leader for 3 years as we've helped to grow the SI program at BMCC, create an advisory board in events like today. And on April 9th, we had a great similar session for the Media Arts and Technology Department. We expected a few people, we got 50. We expected a few more today. We had over 140. So everybody's kind of part of this movement. And through Dean Zumo's leadership, we've been able to connect with the Supplemental Instruction International Group. And so BMCC is now a proud partner, so we can share best practices, not just within the college and across CUNY, but across the United States, not only for 2-year colleges, but 4-year colleges, as well as to universities internationally from Stockholm to Cape Town. And that got us to thinking, how can we really share our best practices with each other and with the world. And Julie Collins, who's the head of SI International, said to Dean Zumo and I, said, well, you're the world. You do have people from 155 countries who speak 111 languages. We have a lot to learn from you. So John, if you put up some material. So Dean Zumo tasked me about 3 years ago to begin filming with my little iPhone in classrooms. So we filmed in over 25 classrooms and events, and we've created this. So we have documentaries, we have tips, we have how to sign up, all the things that Vincent wanted to know are on here. And down at the bottom, you'll see our YouTube channel. So we have cut about 20 mini documentaries. It shows the fabulous work that's being done on a day-to-day basis across the college. Because we shot on an iPhone, we're able to get just beautiful, beautiful moments of real teaching in and out of the classroom. And we've also been able to have people as young as 17 say fabulous things like, I think I'm helping the world just a little bit by being a SI leader. It's a great thing. So we have a homepage, we have a page just for students, and then we have a page for faculty, so that we have all the research. So everything that you guys have mentioned that you want and you need and how to sign up, and Vincent had a laundry list, it's all going to be on there. And then thanks to Dean Zumo, in the fall, we're going to have something that she's calling Spotlight on Peer-to-Peer Assisted Learning. So we're going to have a week of events and information, and we're going to premiere the website and all our films so that you guys will be able to share in the knowledge that we have. And then in years and months to come, we'll be able to share material from Stockholm, from Cape Town, from Fullerton, California, from Tacoma, right here and across CUNY and across all our departments. So, it's like our little saying goes, start here, go anywhere. So thanks to Dean Zumo for starting us off. And I don't think we're done yet. Okay. Dean Zumo, back to you.
Thank you, Susan. That was beautiful. This is looking great. People are wanting the URL. So it's not quite up yet, but it's certainly about ready to be launched. So we'll be having that for you in the fall semester. Again, I'm just going to say thank you. Did I leave anything out? Anybody on the team?
Nope, we're
Thank
good.
you to our planning. They did an amazing job. I'd like you to stand up and take a bow. I don't know if you could do that, but yay, planning team.
Everybody, yeah.
Yay,
Yeah,
facilitators,
we're good.
and yay, participants. And thank you, participants, for mentioning Connect to Success. I always forget to do that. It is such a huge part of what we do. Those early alerts, along with SI, are two key services that keep our students coming back, keep them on track to graduate, keep them at the college. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I put my email in the chat, but you all know how to reach me. Any questions, do not hesitate. Thank you so much. I am so excited by today. That's it for me.